Hi, Amy from The 7 Effect here, and I'm here with Cherie from Time for Kids. Time for Kids is our chosen charity for our huge end of year celebration, Cocktails and Dreams. It's on the 15th of December here in Adelaide. We really want to see you there. But as our chosen charity, I've been able to spend the afternoon coming out and chatting to some of the people that work or are volunteers and the staff here. So Cherie, you're a staff member here at Time for Kids, so...
Yes, I am. So my role is I oversee the service team, which basically what that means in a quick nutshell is that when people inquire about becoming a carer or a mentor for Time for Kids, that I oversee that process of assessment. And also within the child referrals, which obviously we get a lot of child referrals coming through, I oversee that side of it as well. And then obviously the most ongoing long-term part is the child and carer support. So what that means also is touching base with the birth family as well as the carer or mentor to check in around the placement and how that connection and relationship's going.
And so I guess within your role, I mean, what are some of the challenges that you face, sort of, I guess, day to day or year in, year out?
Look, there is some challenges, and again, Time for Kids is very relationship focused. So relationships is the most critical part. So when we first match a family with a child, we actually have what's called intensive support. So what we found through previous years of data is that having intensive support in the first 12 months does alleviate and bring up the barriers or challenges that families and carers may have. So some of those challenges, come down to behaviours and not knowing how far to go to guide that child in relation to behaviour. Sometimes it can be very different values of families that can sometimes have an impact. But mostly it's about the education and the training of our carers, and obviously funding towards that is a really critical part for us, and knowing that we can put those extra practices in place to upskill the carers. Obviously our carers are just people that come into Time for Kids without any, some of them are not parents themselves as yet, so haven't maybe have had that experience. But other challenges, there's not really too many that come up. Barriers between communication, and again, if that comes up in early placement, that's something that we're able to tease out between us, whether Time for Kids play a role within the middleman of that, which sometimes we've done. And also, I suppose, another barrier that we do come across is children that are in kinship care, which what that means is that they're under the guardianship of the minister, but living with an auntie or uncle or significant person in their life. And, dealing with the social workers, because obviously the children are still under the guardianship, so families, they say the social workers are the guardians. That can sometimes be a little bit tricky because, getting everyone on the same page. It's not just the birth family, the care and mentor and Time for Kids, but there's also the extra element of a social work. So we work I work quite intensively to get all parties on the same page, which again, that critical period is in that first 12 months to establish that relationship. And again, extra training that we need funding for if we were to want our carers to expand those skills.
So I guess, with things like that, it's not, nothing sort of tends to be as simple as you see with things like that. There's so much more that's involved, and, just in, hearing all of those, the different, I guess, areas or angles that come into it, but the time that's associated with that and the commitment for you guys, but I guess being able to provide those services and that training and, funding, I guess, definitely comes down to things like that, but it's not just as kind of as simple as, right, well, here's somebody that, that needs a carer, right, here's a carer. Okay, see, how you go.
No.
So your role is huge. And like you said, I think that's fantastic with anything is creating, that great foundation because everything is in, the longevity of the relationship.
Absolutely.
Which is what you guys work towards.
Yeah, and that's the focus, and again, it is a critical part. It sounds quite simplistic, but there's a lot of planning that goes into the match. So that's about what the family, carer family, mentor are looking for, or, the age of child, the geographical, where they live, all of those things. But most importantly, it's about the best interests of the child and what that child needs, and that's the primary concern. Some children are very socially isolated and don't have a lot of interactions with other children. Yeah. So obviously in our matching process, we would look for a family unit more so than a one-to-one, to have that exposure to the family environment and within the home. And yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's just, it does blow me away when we sort of, with who we partner with the various charities, because we're careful with who we choose that we work with, because we want to make sure obviously values and things align, and hearing so much, but there's all that work and all the foundation that go into, making sure everything's set up and established, within that first 12 months, to keep things moving forward. Definitely. So I would assume that you've got some amazing stories of success being...
Yes, absolutely. And, I must say, I love my job, every inch of it. And, but it is lovely in hearing the stories. And I suppose, it's really hard for me to choose one that will resonate, and plant the seeds of how many are in my head. Yeah. But in saying that, one that comes to mind is a placement that's only been going for 15 months. With a carer family, so the child goes into their home. The child was referred and was on the waiting list for a significant period of time. Again, that's why the recruitment of carers is so critical. Yeah, it's huge. Yeah, huge. But we matched them, and he lives with his mother, doesn't have any contact with his dad whatsoever. Mum struggles with mental illness and also finances. So he doesn't have a lot of outside exposure. There's a lot of playing video games and that type of thing. Okay. So we matched him with the carer family, and he has absolutely just flourished. His mother is so ecstatic that he can actually have extra people in his life that give him opportunities that she wants him to have, but she actually can't provide. I mean, they've recently actually just taken him to the Gold Coast.
Oh, wow.
I know, how amazing. But it's also, it's not just the trips away, but it's also the emails and the stories that I get from the carer about their weekend together, and the absolute inclusiveness of him with his connection to his birth family. They do, every time they have a visit, they have a photo board to take home that he can share with his mum. To say, this is what I did. So again, it's still empowering mum and making her feel really good about being a parent, to share that experience. So that's quite a lovely one. He has had lots of firsts with the family. First trip to the beach, collecting shells, to the museum, to Adelaide Oval, to a fireworks show, to a fringe show. Wow. And, the little smile on his face is absolutely just heartwarming. And they also have, taught him so much, which he'll tell you all about when you see him. He's so proud because he's actually learning about geography and where things are in the world. Yeah. And that's a really important thing for him to learn. Yeah. And the most exciting is that he transfers that into his everyday life. Yeah. So at school, he's talking about it. And, I suppose the most unique thing about our program is if you ask a child who are these people, they'll just say that they're, they're just my extra special friends. Yeah. They don't know that they're involved in a Time for Kids program. Right. Like, to us, and that's where we like to have the relationship with obviously the birth family and the carers, so that then the child doesn't feel any different to any other child. It's just extra people in their life. Yeah. So that's probably one of them. And another one is a very long-term placement that's been going for about 7 years. Yeah. And
7 years, okay, wow.
Yeah, and that's just amazing. That connection is so strong. A child that's a female lives with her mother, multiple issues, domestic violence in the past, lots of mental illness, struggles to hop out into society and that type of thing. So when this child was matched with a carer family, which they also have their own children, so it was almost like she was brought into this really big, massive family, and she was ecstatic to have like brothers and sisters. And the carers actually got married, and she was actually a bridesmaid in their wedding. Oh, wow. So, it's all of those little warm and fuzzies that, these children feel like they have an extended family away from home. Yeah. And, you know, it's been tricky at times for the child. Now she's a teenager.
Yep.
So she's always, you know, touching base with the carers to say, what do you think about this? You know, so it's that deep connection, and it's also that trust, which is such a critical part with our children. The kids in the program a lot of the time have had people come and go.
Okay. Yeah,
So consistency for us is really critical.
Yeah.
Again, the family's taken them, you know, anywhere the family goes, she'll sort of go along because she is family as well.
Yeah.
So that's just 2 of about 50 that I could share with you. But yeah, the impacts of the program and the heartwarming outcomes that I get to hear and I get to share, amazing.
Yeah, and I think, you know, and that's the thing with anything, with something, I guess, that's unique like this is, you know, it just can change a child's life.
Absolutely.
They then take, you know, look at that for 7 years, you know, they take that into adulthood, and that's then, you know, it changes their whole life.
It does.
You know, and I guess, you know, you would hate to think, I guess, where some of these kids would be if they didn't have those carers, or, you know, those extra special friends in their life if they didn't have those, and where they would end up. So
there's, if you don't mind, just one more that just comes to light, and this is a placement that's actually not overseen by Time for Kids anymore.
Okay.
But they were in placement with Time for Kids for over 10 years.
Wow.
And he's now past 18, so out of the program as such, but they actually still catch up. He still catches up with the carer. He's actually living interstate now, but comes back and catches up with his carer.
Yep.
And her biological son and the Time for Kids child are actually best friends.
Oh,
and we're best man in each other's weddings. So it's amazing. And I had, you know, I was really blessed to have an opportunity to talk with him. And he said, I don't know where I would be. I definitely wouldn't have followed my dreams and thought I could achieve it if I didn't have that constant reassurance of, you know, yes, you can, and encouragement and opportunity to open his eyes to, this is the world is your oyster, and you can do what you want with it and make it what you want to be. So that's really, like, massively exciting as well.
And just, and growing up, I guess, you know, just gaining that self-belief that, you know, probably wouldn't have come about.
Definitely.
And that's just huge, you know, confidence and, you know, but then even just, you know, becoming, I guess, a responsible member of society.
Yeah, and getting employment.
Yeah.
You know, going back to study, a lot of our families, you know, aren't in the workforce.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's nice for them to be able to see other people going out and having jobs and going back to studies, and, you know, just knowing the world's their oyster. A lot of our carers, mentors, take them to uni open days when they're getting to that age, just to see the possibilities.
So, and you can kind of, like, you know, I guess, break that cycle. But
Absolutely.
You know, and that's, that's imperative, I think.
Yes, I totally agree with you.
Well, thank you so much. I love the stories, and I guess I could listen to them all day. But thank you, and I guess that's what we're all about is raising money for this beautiful charity, Time for Kids. So we'll share the details of where you can donate. If you can't come along to our Cocktails and Dreams event, which is on the 15th of December in Adelaide this year, it's going to be huge once again. Definitely something not to miss. And these guys will all be there, so you'll get to hear heaps more stories, and, you know, and try not to cry as I have done today. So thank you so much for your time, and we hope to see you there.